Why do you think they spell whiskey without an E?
You know, it's been the only one so far. I mean, is missing the E. And
did the little red squiggly line not come up when they were printing their label that showed them that it was spelled wrong?
Hello and welcome everyone to episode 6 of The Mashup, the best bourbon conversation you're going to hear all week long. We are your hosts, Michael, Anthony, and Steven. Hey fellas.
Good evening.
Hello fellas, what's going on?
Oh, not much. What's happening in Anthonyville over there?
It's Super Bowl week, and for the first time I find myself a little lost because I'm not talking to friends about parties or anything of that nature, and so try and prepare for the socially distanced, well, really not even a socially distanced Super Bowl party. It's going to be just a party of two, myself and my wife, after we put the kids to bed. But what are you guys getting into?
We'll probably keep it pretty small. There might be a couple groups together of no more than probably 8 or 10 people getting together. The same 8 or 10 people that have been getting together for the last few weeks. Of course, they'll all crash. The kids will crash about halftime, and we'll head home. And so it's only like a half a Super Bowl party, really, just because Super Bowl will go on too late, so our kids will have to go home eventually. I kind of look forward to watching it by yourself, though. I mean, then you can kind of really concentrate on it. You can watch commercials without kids interrupting you, and you can rewind it a little bit if you have to.
Can you imagine what the commercials are going to be like this year?
Oh, they're going to be brutal.
They're going to be sad.
Well, I saw
uplifting. They're going to be all over the place.
I saw where I think it was Budweiser doesn't even have one this year, and it's the first time in like 40 years or something that they've not had a Super Bowl commercial. So I don't know. Maybe they just figure they're doing well enough during the pandemic. People were drinking enough beer.
Did they lower the cost of a commercial, or are they keeping it the same, or they raised it?
I have no idea.
You don't know?
I have no idea.
I'm not really sure either. I do know that the companies like Budweiser and others that aren't having it, they said they're going to donate to charitable efforts related to COVID relief and stuff like that. So that's good at least. And I don't know, past that, like I know that we talk about the commercials and everything like that, but it's kind of tough for me this year because I don't really care that much about the teams that are playing. No offense to anybody out there that's fans. I just can't really get into Tom Brady. Tom Brady's great, but how many times when I watch the guy play in the Super Bowl? I don't know. Are you guys rooting for him, against him?
I thought about this. I've thought long and hard about this. I don't know why. I think I've kind of turned to wanting him to win a little bit, just to kind of stick it to Bill Belichick a little bit. I felt like the Patriots kind of decided, we don't need you. We're going to move on without you, and nobody's bigger than the Patriots. And now the Patriots ended up as one of the worst teams in the league, and Tom Brady found himself back in the Super Bowl. So I think that's kind of funny in a way.
Yeah, well, rooting for I guess you couldn't really call Tom Brady an underdog, but I guess in the context you just put it in where no one was expecting him to succeed.
Right.
I kind of liken it almost to the Michael Jordan effect, right? Jordan won his first 3 championships, and people were like, let somebody else win. And then he goes away and comes back. And by the last one, it seemed like everybody was rooting for Jordan. And, of course, the guy's legacy is what it is.
Everybody ended up loving him.
Well, guys, we are going to explore a bottle of Maker's Mark Cask Strength.
Oh, heck yeah. Maker's Mark Cask. This is a welcome addition to the Maker's Mark line. I'm trying to remember what year. Do you guys know what year that this was added to the Maker's line by any chance?
I have no idea, but I would guess, just based on what we were talking about before the show, maybe 2014.
Okay, yeah, they're in about, so relatively new in terms of their product line, which for the longest time has just been their standard Maker's Mark bourbon. But this bottle, Maker's Mark Cask Strength, comes to us from Maker's Mark Distillery, of course, but it's worth noting their parent company is the Beam Suntory Group, even though they maintain their independence. The bottle that we're drinking tonight is from 2019. Its ABV is 54.8% alcohol, comes in at 109.6 proof. Of course, it's worth noting the proof does vary with these cask strength offerings. I think it's been as high as around 115 possibly, but it hangs around that range of 108 to 115. It's a non-age stated bourbon, but it is rumored to be around 6 years old. The mash bill is 70% corn, 16% wheat, and 14% malted barley. Notable because, of course, anytime you get a wheated bourbon, people are going to get excited about it just because it tends to be a little bit softer. We'll find out how that is tonight. And it comes in at an MSRP of around $45, although in certain markets, sometimes you can find it on sale as cheap as $35 and around the $40 mark. And some markets, it's going to cost you a little bit more than that.
I kind of like the 109 proof. I believe that's our highest proof that we've tried so far. And
I believe you're right.
109. That seems to be kind of like right in my wheelhouse. I don't like a real high proof, but I also don't want the 80 proof thing. So that'll be interesting to see. I look at the bottle, and everybody knows the Maker's bottle, right? I mean, like that is an iconic bottle with the shape and the simple label, the red wax. So if you've ever seen a regular Maker's bottle, think shorter and fatter, and that's what you get with the Maker's cask strength bottle. It's a little bit shorter, and we're looking at an old bottle. I think they've changed them a little bit since Stephen purchased this one, but it's got like a really little thin label around the bottle with Maker's Mark like embossed or popped out a little bit on the glass. It's a pretty cool looking. I like it, but I think the company didn't like that little skinny label at the bottom.
Well, I think the issue was it kept on falling off.
Yeah.
I think
it doesn't go all the way around, so like it's very very thin. It also doesn't give all the information like a regular Maker's. As I stare at them side by side here, a regular bottle tells a little bit about the Maker's Mark history. They were America's handmade bourbon. This one doesn't tell that, so you got to get that information from a regular one.
Now you're talking about the bottle and how iconic it is. The red wax. If you just look, you know what you're looking at. Can you think of another bottle with a quick glance? You know exactly what it is and what you're getting with it.
I probably not anything.
I mean, the only thing I can maybe think of is the Willet Still Pot. I mean, the red really shouts at you versus that has nothing on it.
And I don't think a regular bourbon or regular non-bourbon person would. They wouldn't know anything about a Willet.
That's right.
But I mean, the person that doesn't even drink probably sees the red wax and says that's Maker's Mark.
If you're going bourbon, I would have to say one of the Old Fitz decanters.
Right.
Would probably be something that's really iconic, but again, it's all glass versus the red that's popping.
Right, exactly.
The other thing I wanted to talk about real quickly with that bottle is they've dressed it up in so many different ways over the years, of course, by, changing the wax color for certain things. UK bottles, the first time they dipped a blue version of the wax, it's something that's still sought after. I believe that was in the early 90s when they did that. And then, of course, every year they do a Keeneland bottle. They do many other commemorative bottles. And that goes with changing the color of the wax to changing the actual color of the bottle. This last year's Keeneland bottle had a bunch of different autographs on it by actual 5 of the most accomplished jockeys that are currently living. So they've done a lot with this one simple bottle.
I mean, what a home run marketing thing. Like, how they come around at Christmas to stores and they let you dip it in green wax as well so that you can get the red and green for Christmas. And, and everybody tries to find the ones that have the wax that runs all the way down the neck of the bottle.
Those are very rare, right?
Yeah, and evidently that happens like intentionally, like every 85th bottle or something like that they do on the line. So that's all kind of cool, but why do you think they spell whiskey without an E?
It's been the only one so far, I think, is missing the E. And
did the little red squiggly line not come up when they were printing their label that showed them that it was spelled wrong? I mean,
do we know really what the difference is between the E and not E whiskey?
It's supposed to be sort of an honor, homage to their roots, which go back to Scotland. And so that's a way that whiskey was spelled in the old country. And so it's a way of honoring that. I think it actually, from what I remember reading, is an intentional thing on their part. So they chose to do that for that reason, and I'm not sure if other brands can say that, or who knows, maybe it's marketing again.
I was going to say, I have no idea, but they're the only ones I know that do it like that. And it always just looks strange to me.
Yeah, it messes up the hashtags, too. If you're on Instagram and you try to hashtag whiskey, you got to make both of them.
Maker's is one of those, I've got a little soft spot in my heart for it just because I do like the tradition of it and being kind of an iconic thing. I feel like without trying it yet, I mean, I've tried it, but without trying it here on this episode, you want to just like it just because it's, everybody kind of wants. You want to talk about a gift bottle? This is a gift bottle, right? No one's ever going to be mad at you for buying a bottle of Maker's Mark for Christmas.
Oh, I agree, and it's quintessential Kentucky. Trying to look for a gift that says Kentucky bourbon or any bottle that says Kentucky bourbon. This one shots it.
Yeah, and the distillery is quintessential Kentucky, right? You go there and it is, I mean, it's beautiful. Like, guys, I mean, you want to take your wives or girlfriends somewhere and impress them. If you can make it to the Maker's Mark distillery, especially like at Christmas time, I mean, you're not going to need the bourbon to make her feel good later, because that will.
Maybe that's how they're getting away with that Valentine's Day dinner I recently
saw that $600 for 4 people.
Yeah, that's. I know some people were thumbing their nose at the price, but they better treat you good for that money, right?
Actually, it was $600 for a table, and it said no more than 4 people at a table. So I guess if you just wanted 2 people to go, you could, you'd be paying $300. But yeah, it's a really cool. Like, it's got this creek that runs alongside of it. All the buildings are just. They're old and they look like they just belong there, right? Like, and up until a few years ago, there was like a little winding road. Now I think they've built a little bit better road and a bigger visitor center and that kind of stuff. But it just sits down in this like valley. It's just a great looking place.
I've actually never visited. That's one of the ones I need to get to, and now you're making me want to go there even more just talking about it.
Well, guys, you wanna go for some notes?
Absolutely.
Get a strong caramel sense out of it.
Yep, definitely picking that up. I always seem to get this with Weeders, but I think, if I was to say it's almost like dark fruit, but almost a little bit of a cherry note, but very faint, and maybe a little bit of vanilla. I think that the caramel, though, like dominates for me.
Yeah, that's all I'm really getting out of it.
Is there caramel. Are you getting any sort of baking spice?
That's a hard one for me without any rye content even in this. I know usually that's where I pick it up, but maybe more in a subtle way. But I can definitely tell it's absent of rye content. Shall we?
Let's go for it.
Let's go. Nice finish.
Yeah, smooth. Nice finish. I think it's pretty smooth for 109 proof.
Yeah, definitely smooth for proof.
This is a very strange thing for me to say, and you guys could feel free to nail me. I had a little bit of a stuffy nose the last couple of days. I mean, that's messing with me. I almost feel like I'm tasting like a cherry vanilla cola flavor. I don't know where that's coming from.
I don't either.
No, that's the beauty and the curse of these things. We're not professional tasters. And if I tell you I'm getting cherry and vanilla mixed together and I'm saying it's got a cola note, you guys can tell me, hey, get back on your meds. I'm just kidding.
Did you try drinking it through a straw? That might help.
There you go. Maybe if I mixed it with some Yoo-Hoo.
Oh, man. I bet that'd be good.
So, Michael, did you start off drinking Makers in the beginning?
I think that was probably the first one that I started. If I was just trying to drink, to me, I think it's a natural. Anthony, I think you mentioned calling them gateway drugs before, but that's kind of what this is, right? I mean, this is one, especially around here, where regular Makers is not terribly expensive. It's $25 or so. Around here, if you start in the bourbon world, you're going to start mixing with Coke. This is always a really good one, and so I think that's how I started it.
Yeah, this has been my favorite mixer with Coke for a long time. It's weird because I'm not a big Makers neat guy for some reason. Even Makers 46, I have a hard time drinking it neat. I don't know why. When I tried the Cask strength, then I was like, oh yeah, this is good. This is where I like it. Because regular Makers, I love it with mixing. I love like baking with it because it's the only thing that really holds up in the oven. I'm not a big fan of drinking it neat, but Cask, I love it.
I don't have the same kind of thought process when it comes to, like, I'm trying to remember when I first started trying bourbon, I was trying some cheaper ones, but when I came here for my job interview way back in 2011, which brought me here, I went to a restaurant called Malone's, and I remember I wasn't sure if I was going to get a drink or not, and then one of the people on the interview said I would just like a Makers on ice, and I said, sure, I'll have that too. And we got like a really nice rocks glass that was filled with crushed ice, and they filled it up pretty good with it, and it was just delicious in that particular way. So I'm not a big fan of really drinking regular Makers neat, but I remember having it at that interview, and of course it put me at ease instantly that somebody else was having a bourbon, and I felt right at home, and I always had that memory tied to drinking some Makers. So.
What do you think makes a good bourbon to mix with Coke like that? Is it just because it's a wheat bourbon and so it's sweet, and so you're mixing that in with your Coke, which is also sweet? I don't know. It's just, or is it just because it's what was available at the time? I mean, around here, another big thing is like the bourbon slushes, and you mix L81, which is a local soft drink, right? And so Makers always seems to be the kind of thing that everybody just throws into something, right?
Yeah.
So maybe it's not the thing that you're always going to see from a glencairn glass, but it's just interesting. So I guess when they came out with the Cask strength, maybe that's what they were trying to do, is trying to come out with a product that people would drink, in a different way, I guess, than their regular one.
I feel like if I go to a restaurant and they have a menu of craft cocktails, if I see a Makers on there, it kind of catches my attention maybe more than a Willet or a Bullet. I don't know why that is.
I think what you get is you're getting a pretty high value bourbon in your cocktail, but it's not going to be a $25 cocktail. You know what I mean? Like it's not going to, it's not going to be terribly expensive, but you also are getting a pretty good bourbon inside there, right? You have a hard time paying $12 for a cocktail when you're going to get Kentucky Tavern inside of it, right? So, but then also you don't want a cocktail that's got Weller in it because you're going to pay $40 for it.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned Weller because it's worth like taking a quick step back and saying this. We are living in a bourbon world right now where everybody's always seeking the Weller line, and even then you have Heaven Hill, which has Old Fitzgerald and Larceny, and so those are really like the dominant brands when you look at a wheated bourbon, right? Is the everybody wants to play in that space because everyone can drink a wheated bourbon. I think it's because of the smoothness. And so I think Makers sometimes gets lost amongst those other two because people are chasing after him. But, I mean, pound for pound, Makers is, some of the special line and beyond, I think it punches way above its weight, especially against some of those competitors. I don't know how you guys feel. But I think it gets lost sometimes with the craze that people are chasing Weller. I'd take Makers. Nothing wrong with it,
I find myself grabbing the Cask Strength in the evening sometime if I want something to drink versus something else. Maybe it's because I know I can replace it really easy.
Well, yeah, being available, that's...
Yeah.
God, why do you want to drink something that you got to finish the bottle and then wait 2 months to get another one or maybe a half a year?
Yeah.
With that, I will say I wish that Makers did release some higher age stuff. Like, they always have this non-age stated stuff out there, which is really good, but I would wonder what would happen. Like, you guys imagine if Makers would release, like, Makers 12-year. I just feel like it would blow Weller 12 out of the water, but that's just me. I don't know.
How do you think that would bow differently than like a Weller, which does not move, but Makers rotates every barrel?
Yeah.
Like, they could definitely probably get more product out of it.
Probably.
And we could have plenty of Makers 12 on the shelves.
Well, that would be delightful. Don't you think?
Yeah.
Oh, what a great looking bottle too. Big 12 on the label. Ooh. They probably put it in like a.
They put it in a wine bottle.
Well, they put it in like in the emblem, like right here on the. You guys can't see me talking about this, but right on the top where they've got their stamp. They could put a 12 on there. Oh man,
12, yeah.
What a great looking bottle.
Or have 12 in the background and have Maker's Mark kind of over the 12.
Oh yeah, that'd be cool.
And that's the thing. As we sit here and we kind of, I don't want to say romanticize what Makers could be. That's what I want from them, right? As much as I've enjoyed some of their recent releases, like the RC6 and whatever the new one is, where they're doing a lot of stuff with Stave and getting some great stuff out of their private select, I want those things to carry an age statement, to mean more. I just feel like yeah, sure, they have a great place in bourbon, but I feel like they're missing a massive opportunity by not doing a better job expanding the product line and also explaining to people what it is. Like, if I go and see a private select bottle and there's 19 staves on the back and it says, we've selected 3 of these and 2 of these, I don't know what that means. It's good when I drink it, but
yeah.
It doesn't mean much in the marketing end.
I do have one little beef to do with Makers. They have this ambassador program that you can sign up for. I think I've been an ambassador now for, 18, 19 years. You sign up for it, and what they do is they put your name on a barrel. And so when that barrel comes of age, they send you a golden ticket.
Willy Wonka.
Like Willy Wonka. You go down there, and you can buy up to 2 of the bourbon from that barrel, and then they give you a custom label for that bottle with your name on it. You hand dip it, and you purchase it. For the longest time, I was emailing them after the fact. I was like, what's the next step? They're like, oh, we're working on it. Well, it's been 10, 12 years since I've got my bottle, and I've yet to hear anything. They could easily just move you up the line as you graduate. Like, go from Maker's Standard. They put you on a 46. You put yourself on a 46 barrel. You go down there, you spend more money. They graduate you to a Cask Strength. You go down there, you spend more money. Finally, you can go to, like, a private selection. This will be 25 years or so into becoming a member. And and you go down there and spend more money. It seems like free money for them, and I don't know what they're doing to not just automatically graduate you to a new barrel.
Sounds like Steven wants his name on a warehouse or something up there. Like, they're doing a free service to you here, and Steven is upset about this. No, I'm kidding. He's right, though. Like, I joined it about 3 or 4 years ago, okay? So, it's funny, actually. I I joined it after my wife, who hates bourbon, her barrel matured to the point where she could go and get it, purchase it, and dip it herself and get her name on the label and all that kind of stuff. I tried to talk them into putting Kenny without an E in the end because it would be like whiskey without an E, right? So like we could have had it, my name could have been just like that. But anyway, so I joined it while we were there. And so I'm about halfway there probably. But, you know, Steven's right. I mean, there's a lot of people that joined this a long time ago that have already done what he did, and then they don't really get anything else out of it other than the yearly Christmas ornament or pair of socks or whatever it is, right? So,
but how good would that look in your bourbon collection? I should be on my third bottle now as being an ambassador. How cool would that be in your collection with bottles of Makers with your name on it in there? The only way to get them is to wait. You can't buy it. You have to wait.
Oh, yeah. No, I think it's amazing. And I also think that as we're talking about the missed opportunities there, I also think it speaks to how strong of a brand they are, right?
Yeah.
If they're missing those things, it doesn't mean any of us are going to hold any ill will against them. We're just going to be like, yeah. And to tell you guys the truth, I was super impressed. I love to give these stories. But so this past year when I bought my Keeneland bottle, I was so excited to get it. I came home, I set it down, I looked at it, and I instantly realized it was missing a signature. And so all these Keeneland bottles from Makers were supposed to come with 5 signatures, and mine had 4. And I was like, how in the heck did this happen? And so I just randomly called up the Maker's Mark Distillery with my Kroger receipt in hand, and I'm like, hey, this happened. They're like, call this person. Okay. They're like, email this person. So I sent an email. I get a phone call the next day, and they're like, hey, we're really sorry about that. They're like, we'll send you a new label out, and you can just put it on your bottle. And I said, are you serious? And they're like, yeah. Within a day and a half, I had an answer. They sent me the new label, and they didn't just send me a new label. They sent me ice molds and rocks glasses and a lot of other nice stuff and a letter apologizing. And so now I have this really cool bottle with 2 labels and a bunch of other cool stuff from Makers, and they didn't have to do any of that. So they're really, despite what we might say about them, they're really a class company.
Oh, they love putting that. They love putting that wax on everything, right? Everybody's probably seen the rocks glasses where they dip the rocks glass in the wax too, and so you got those.
Yeah, coasters.
They've got coasters like that, and pens and baseball bats and everything else. They are all over the wax. But you know what? Hey, it works for them, man. Like it makes it unique. That's for sure.
So, fellas, would you pass, try, or buy on Maker's Mark Cask Strength?
I would buy. I'd buy it. I think it's worth the extra $20 or so for the Cask Strength versus the regular, especially now that it's got a new bottle. I do actually like the new bottle. Same shape, just a little bit different label, but I like it. It's got a good looking bottle. You still get that wax top, which always looks good on your shelf. So I'd buy it.
Yeah, I'm also going to agree and say I would buy it, mostly because I always joke with people and tell them I'm a recovering Weller-holic. When I started trying more of the Makers line, I really come to like a lot of their offerings. And so when it comes to the Cask Strength, if I can get a wheated bourbon at a good proof, good age, when I go to the store, I'm going to buy this 9 times out of 10, unless I see some other shiny object that might be in the price range. But that almost never happens. It's usually always something that's sold out. So I don't know if I'm always buying it over like an OWA, but I might be. In the future because it's really, really grown on me. So I'm definitely a buy.
There is no reason not to buy this. If you like weeders, if you like having a little bit extra proof, and you like availability, there is no reason not to buy this bottle.
Yeah, 100%. It's, some people out there might disagree, but I think it's really just a home run at the price and the availability and the taste and everything. I mean, I know we couldn't really pick out a lot of notes, but when I say couldn't pick them out, I mean not in a bad way. That could be the complexity we're just not experiencing on, an ounce or 2 of bourbon.
I got a bone to pick with the people in the Facebook groups now that are new, and I know there are a lot of people that listen that are new to bourbon, and we've talked about how getting into bourbon doesn't mean diving right into everything that you see that you want. Understanding what you're doing on these bourbon groups. You obviously see something you want and you're trying to buy it, you're trying to ask questions about it. Like, how important is it to just ask questions and watch these bourbon groups before you decide to comment on something?
It's the absolute most important thing in the world. I really think I was a legit lurker for 6 months before I knew what to do in bourbon groups. And even then, I would make an occasional comment asking for clarification, but not diving right in. And I have actually a really close buddy of mine I grew up with who recently got into bourbon. My advice to him when he started asking me questions, I said, when you ask questions, just don't ask them in a way that's going to make people think, ignorant or stupid or whatever. Just, he's done well for himself. He knows the abbreviations now. He's always got a whole bunch of deals that he's done and things that he's won in these raffle groups and everything else. Much better than I probably was within 6 months. Yeah, you definitely got to lurk to know the etiquette. I mean, I can't give examples specifically, but I've been seeing some stuff lately that just makes me shake my head.
Oh, the first time I did it, I was so nervous. Like I was like you. I've been watching it for a month or two, and learning and figuring all that stuff out. And you don't want to make a mistake because you'll just get hammered. Just watch. All you gotta do is just watch for a little bit. If you got a question, maybe message one of the guys that seems to know what they're doing and ask them a question before you make it public. Right? It's just like anything you do. Before I send an email, sometimes I send it to somebody and say, "Does this look right?" before I send it out, so that I don't make that mistake.
Yeah, find yourself a veteran or a mid-tier person in that bourbon group that you trust and bounce things off of. That's a really great piece of advice.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then the other thing I wanted to say is, just so you know, if you are just getting into this, there is never going to be anybody on the internet that is legit selling you anything for close to market or under market value that's a highly sought after bottle. It's coming more and more up to fraud. There's people starting pages every day saying they're a bourbon store and they'll sell you a Pappy Van Winkle for $300 a 23-year. It's not happening. So if that ever happens, please avoid. I mean, my God, I just saw one today where somebody's getting scammed for a bourbon front. I couldn't believe it.
I can agree to that because when we started our Instagram page for this podcast, I think within a day or two, I got a DM from somebody about, if you're ever interested, let him know and we could buy something. He sent me the list, and there was some weird pricing going on with that. Some bottles that were not called what they normally are, and then he got really aggressive about me not replying to him.
If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. It's also kind of like, around here especially, if you're going to go into a liquor store and they have a Weller 12 or a Pappy or something like that sitting on their shelves, willing to bet that you're probably going to be paying a lot for it. Don't just all of a sudden walk in and you see something and you think it's going to be, you found something special, because if it's there, it's probably because it's too expensive.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, there's this, and then what I was going to say is with what's going on right now, if you are in the social media world and you're trying to, I don't want to say get a bourbon come up, right, where you're trying to build a collection, you're thinking you're going to do it fully by buying and selling on Facebook, be very careful, because a lot of the people who administer these big bourbon groups nationwide on different various platforms, they're facing a lot of heat right now, and I would call it the deregulation of social media bourbon. And as that becomes more deregulated and people don't care as much, there's going to be more and more people on there that are trying to scam. I think just today alone in one local group, there was probably 4 or 5 people trying to scam. And they got called out every time because there's a lot of local members here that take care of the community and do a great job of it. They do it locally and nationally, but just watch out for that kind of stuff. It's alluring for sure, but it can be a mess.
And with that, thanks for listening to this week's edition. Please like and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at TheMashupKY. Also, let us know your thoughts on this bottle in the comment section. Until next time, keep it neat.